Hi y'all, and welcome to the Dark Crystal Conjunction. I'm your host, Jason Delgado. The new 12-part comic book series Beneath the Dark Crystal that began July 4th. I'm at an airport, so there's going to be lots of cuts. That began July 4th, 2018. And after leaving us issueless for a month, is back as of today, October the 3rd, 2018. We'll have our quick spoiler-free review, and then we'll dive into the comic for all those at Reddit. The issue description reads, quote, "The challenge for the throne between Therma and Mithra begins in Mithra. Meanwhile, Kensho and his new companions visit a village with hopes of helping the locals, but things are not as they appear." It is again written by Adam Smith and illustrated by Alexandra Huntington with letters by Jim Campbell. As always, the main cover is by Benjamin Dewey, and something I have noticed from those main covers is there's really one color that stands out and pops out. Issue number 1, as I'll put up on the screen here, is orange. Issue number 2, the blue really shines. 3, this one is the red. And issue 4, I'll show later. We get into our spoilerish type stuff, but it follows that same kind of pattern. The subscription cover is by David Peterson. This one features the Uru mystic Urim the Healer and the Skeksis Skek-Ung the Gartham Master. He was the big brute. He was the one who beat Skeksil, the Chamberlain, in Trial by Stone, and he's the one that also wields the Emperor's Scepter, which is how they have control of the Gartham. It's also called the Gartham Scepter in the new Discovery Adventure book. In the foreground, you have symbols for what was the Skeksis' floor plan during the funeral ceremony and their throne room. I will link to a lot more information on that. I was sharing some pictures about that this morning on the Dream Fasting group, and there's a lot of great stuff that came out there, so I will link to those discussions. The background symbol is also dealing with the Gartham, from what I recall, and it's broken for certain reasons. Again, I'll link to all those processes there. You can still see a step-by-step process on his blog. I will link to that as well, so you can see the whole process of him from the sketches to the inking it and all that. Again, we continue with the incentive cover by Lee Garbett, and I realize I just finished reading a comic series by him called Loki, where he does all the art, and it's wonderful, and his art is wonderful in there. It's just as wonderful on all these covers. I really like how he always hides something in it. This time you could see the crystal on the Uru there. Always enjoy his work and look forward to his. So let's get into this issue. There isn't much that I can say by way of non-spoilers, and as we get more and more deeper into the comics, I think it's just going to become just pure spoiler reviews because there's not much more I can say. The Gelflings are on Thra and the Firelings are on Mithra. It's still two different stories. You know, they're only connected through Kensho and Therma. In the comics, I'm used to such fast-paced stories. This one's gone really slow. I think I need to just tell myself this is just a slower type comic. So far nothing's really hugely interested me in it. It is rather slow. I'll be honest, if I wasn't a Dark Crystal fan, there's nothing that really intrigues me too much about it, but because I am, that's why I keep getting these comics. But hopefully it picks up pace a little more next time. I know I said that last time. It still really didn't for me. It does have a little more direction now though, but that is what it is. Issue number 4 will be out on November the 7th, so we'll see if any change of pace comes from that. We did get a couple more wide shots, but I don't know why the world for some reason still feels rather small and doesn't feel too Dark Crystal-ish to me, but it does when we get into the Fireling area, the Mithra type stuff. There's a lot more to explore there, but the rest of it seems odd for Thra to me, but it is a different time, it is a different place, different age. So as you can hear are my first impressions, spoiler thoughts. So if you haven't read the comic yet, go ahead and pick that up and come back when you have read it. We pick up with a flashback to when Therma was just a wee little Fireling. I really like, it's really cute. I love it when they had the flashbacks of the Gelflings. They're adorable. It's just as cute for the Firelings. We do learn later that she's trying to learn fire angling, or being an angler. This is what it seems like it's the art that the Firelings can do of taking dirt and turning it into glass. Beautiful piece of glass at that. We learn that Therma struggled with this as a child and still does, which is where our drama comes out, because she's supposed to be having this competition with Nita to have a crystal castle, build a crystal castle, as we find out later, glass castle, I'm sorry. But this is going to matter on who becomes the ruler of Mithra. She can't do this, however, currently, and even later on in the comic we see her still trying it as an adult, and she still can't make it happen. So it seems like our girl Therma is in a lot of trouble. We do see these two characters interacting a lot more, and kind of silly things like they're racing there. We find out they're both very competitive and they're both very driven. So if they want something, they're going to do all they can to do it. We do learn a lot more about Nita and see her motivations. We do see that she really does care about the firelings and how they're going to prosper in Mithra. Which begs the question of why she's so against Therma, and it turns out that she's really disappointed in Therma's last comic, how she failed to save all of Mithra. She did ultimately save it, but the Great Dim happened and a lot of the firelings did turn into glass or stone. I'm not exactly sure what some of them are. Some of them seem like they're kind of hard molten magma, but as they're on their way to the place where they're going to compete to build the glass castle, they do come up upon what is known as a halo, or a hollow. I believe it's hollow. They do come up to a hollow. These look to be places where fire anglers would teach the craft of harnessing the flame and transforming dirt into glass. During this history lesson, Nita is giving Therma, they run into Glassmay, and Glassmay is one of the fire anglers. She lives in this particular village, and she's the last one left, and she's there kind of just with her now glass family. And she is worried. She does give them directions on where they can go to learn fire angling. Apparently they both need to learn it, so I'm not really sure where Nita is on that, although she did seem very confident. But she does request their help before she sends them on their way, saying that a darkness that threatens to shatter us all is always there, and that's what she's protecting. We leave off with Therma remembering her mother's words, quote, "You don't want to destroy something, you want to create it," end quote. This is one of the reasons that this is one of the ways that her mother would encourage her in her fire angling, saying she was almost getting it, but she would burn it. It's because you're not wanting to destroy it, you want to create something. And this is one of those quotes that I'm pretty sure we'll see multiple times throughout the story. It's a big inspiration for Therma. For whatever reason, Mithra looks really beautiful at night. You can see these couple shots here that I compiled. All of a sudden now there's really gorgeous backgrounds. That was one of the complaints I had last time, is the backgrounds are real just flat and dry. And they were mostly throughout this comic as well, until you got to nighttime and during Mithra. But of course, all that beauty is disturbed by that previously mentioned darkness. This strange creature looks part undead, dragon, not Skeksis, but I don't know. So this is a new creature. Thankful it's not the Skeksis return, but we don't know much more about it, and that's kind of just where it is. Kind of just leaves off on a cliffhanger. She's in trouble. What are they going to do? Again, the story barely progresses in my opinion, but that's what we got. From issue number 4 blurb, which is already out, coming out November 7th, it says this, quote, "Therma and Nita must travel deep into Mithra to learn from a mysterious figure of their world's past," end quote. So we have more history from Mithra, which is just cool, and apparently they do defeat this monster, this new threat, and are on their way to learn from this mysterious fire angler. But again, the story is still moving rather slow, flowing like molten lava. I just hope that it flames up and moves a little faster and doesn't get cold and dry up and harden. That is half of what's going on. The other half of the story, as we said, is above the dark crystal, or on the ground with the dark crystal, in what's happening with Thra with the Gelflings. We last left off with Kensho and Tula recently befriended with those thieving twins, Davinve and Ayana, I believe is how you pronounce it. They wind up going to the village that you can enter only by breaking in, and therein lies a lot of the scenes making that happen. We learn more about the twins. One of them is more into brute force and explosions and blowing things up and meeting things face to face. The other one's more crafty and stealthy and sneaky. They both have quite a history, which doesn't seem very good. It seems like they're both trying to do these good deeds now to make up for a lot of that wrong that they did. But anyways, they wind up getting into this village technically at the same time. It's kind of a competition. It winds up taking up a lot of pages, too many pages in my opinion, just like the race did. I think it's one of the reasons the story's moving kind of slow, but I digress. This new village that they're in is a new place called Dagger's Root, and it's being ruled over by a very greedy Gelfling that demands tithes several times a day. And a tithe, again, is technically 10% of whatever you grow or crop or your animals and whatnot. It could also include money. In this case, it seems like it's a little bit of all of that. It seems like he really just takes fees for anything that he wants, because he sees something that Kensho has, that little texting crystal device that he's been communicating with Therma through, and he says, oh, there's an entrance fee, so he's going to take it. And this tithe doesn't just happen once a day, it happens multiple times a day. So he's just a very greedy guy and doesn't care about the decrees of the castle. His name is Trunk, and he runs with that analogy. He says, quote, "In this town, the trunk holds the branches. The branches drop the seeds, and the seeds stay in the dirt where they belong." And later on, he goes on to be very degrading people. It says he calls him a little dirt monger, and there's just seeds born from dirt. So in his opinion, he's the high, mighty, strong tree, and the rest of them are just dirt, basically. And it has scenes where these gelflings are getting drunk and trying to hit on girls, and it's really weird, and doesn't seem very Dark Crystal to me at this point. But this is 100+ years after the Dark Crystal, and we haven't really seen many Dark Crystal communities come together like this. But from what all I read in the prequel stuff, like the J.M. Lee series, it doesn't seem like something like that would happen. But I don't know. It's starting to feel more just elfish humanly than gelfling to me. So Kensho and Tula finally have some direction, though. The character that man was referring to, calling him Dur and whatnot, was Dinamore, who can't pay the tithe, and so he assumes that he's going to get locked up in the courtyard stocks, but they say they have a special place for him. Kensho and Tula finally have some direction as they plan to visit this guy and break him out, and Kensho also, as his little text messaging system crystal thing with Therma gets taken away, Therma is sending him a message at that time, so he wants to get it back and see what was going on. And that's really the only connection so far between these two concurrent stories, and that's really where it leaves off. There wasn't much that happened. It seems like it was like half an episode. It's kind of disappointed with it. It was very slow, but it is what it said. So the other half of that blurb that talks about this side of the story says, quote, "Meanwhile, Kensho's time in the local village opens his eyes to something that may change Thra forever," end quote. So that's quite a big, strong phrase, so possibly something big is going to happen next time. So as I said earlier, we're still getting introductions to new characters, and I think that's moving the story along a lot slower because these are all new characters that we're getting introduced to, and they're spending time introducing them. So again, it's semi-intriguing. I'm getting less and less intrigued as the comics go on. Still holding out hope. Please impress me. I believe you can still do it. But with that, that's really all I have. Not much more. There are just 3 issues. We are just 3 issues in out of 12. Let me know what you think. Let me know your thoughts. If you saw anything very interesting or cool. We did learn a little more lore. Nothing too much, nothing too big and fancy, but with that, I do hope that they keep giving us more of Thra, and it sounds like we're getting a lot more Mithra history next month. So until next time, keep exploring Thra.